Al-
Okay, thank you very much. I feel privileged to have been asked to speak on this platform and to share, and it's just amazing how this world's just got a whole lot smaller, so it's wonderful. That's one great thing that's come out of this pandemic, is that we've all seemed to be a little bit closer. So I'm going to start off with step 4 and doing a reading from Courage to Change, and it's December the 10th, page 345. Many of us come to Al-Anon confused. We are so focused on our alcoholic loved ones that we may not be able to see where they leave off and where we begin. We've lost our sense of what is appropriate. How can we distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior when we don't even know what we want or need? My 4-step inventory helped me discover who I am, what my values are, the behavior I'd like to keep, and the things I'd like to change. With this in mind, I'm working to establish new behavior that reflects my integrity and expresses my true values. Where in the past I've allowed unacceptable behavior, I now can choose a different response. I must consistently do what I say I'm going to do. Today, I have the courage and faith to be true to myself. Whether or not others like or agree with me, I must remember that announcing my new ways to others is not nearly as important as knowing what my own limits are and acting accordingly. Today's reminder, I'll remember that knowing my boundaries does not mean forcing others to change it. It means that I know my own limits and take care of myself by respecting them. The focus today is on me. Quote from Henry Longfellow, "He that respects himself is safe from others. He wears a coat of mail that none can pierce." So for me, that really stands out, that reading. I grew up in an alcoholic home, and I certainly had no preference of healthy behavior. So only coming into the program have I started learning healthy behavior. So for me, I'm going to be talking about step 4 today, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Recovery for me has been a process, not an event. The same can be said for step 4. Step 4 has been a step of self-discovery. It challenged me to take a thorough look at myself, the positives as well as the negatives. I love the principles of the steps. Courage, honesty, humility, and willingness are the principles of step 4. It has taken courage to honestly look at myself. The single key to this step is to take action. No need to overthink or dance around it. My navigator would remind me that there's no right or wrong way of doing this step. Just doing it as thoroughly and mindfully as one can is a start. The word searching told me that it's going to take some reflection into my past. The word fearless for me was about being honest and looking at what part I play and then taking responsibility. Step 4 asked me nothing more than starting to make a list. Otherwise, nothing will change. The words moral inventory, an inventory doesn't change things, it simply lists things. My inventory is only a story of my feelings and acts from the beginning until now. Step 4 has been an essential step towards recognizing my responsibilities and finding appropriate, healthful release from my physical, emotional, and spiritual experiences. The 4 necessary elements to a successful moral inventory for me has been writing, honesty, support, and prayer. I've been in recovery for the past 8 years, and I'm grateful for the adult, child, and Al-Anon meetings, which have both enriched my life in many ways and continue to do so. When I first came into the program, I was very much stuck in the problem, but working the steps, attending meetings, having a sponsor, and other members from our tribe who have supported me, doing service and navigating my way through with applying the tools of the program, I've discovered myself and found the solution. Some of my negative behaviors that needed to change, suppressed feelings. I stuffed my feelings from my traumatic childhood and lost the ability to feel or express my feelings because it hurt so much. I found ways of distracting myself from feeling too much. I abused my body with exercise that I now face the consequences of. I became addicted to excitement. and the positives from the endorphins. I felt guilty when I stood up for myself. I developed a sense of taking on too much responsibility and made it easier for me to be concerned about others rather than myself. This enabled me not to look too closely at my own flaws and needs. I was frightened of angry people and any personal criticism. I had a high tolerance for unacceptable behavior and treatment. I never trusted anyone, so I became controlling and super responsible, so much so that I disempowered others and enabled people around me. Since doing a fourth step inventory and working the program, I've been very aware of the behaviors that don't serve me, and I've made some radical changes through a lot of awareness, acceptance, and action. I also realized that my assets have also served me in a very positive way. I've channeled my need of being super responsible in my life, that it now serves my needs. My willingness, curiosity, sense of humor, courage, openness are all strengths that serve me. My biggest fear was not trusting, so therefore the need to control. I continue to remind myself to hand over to my higher power and let go before it starts controlling me. My faith and trust has become so strong being in this enlightened space of recovery. My navigator used to say to me, Charissa, you never learn to trust. If you never learn to trust the process. She was right. The amount of synchronicity that I've encountered has been very comforting. Step 4 initially was such a big step. I did not think it, but today I know I can just make a list with ease and trust the process as I continue to do my part and share it with my higher power, my sponsor, and myself, and then become entirely ready to let go and let God. When there's an internal discomfort, I have to ask myself, is this coming from a place of desire or from a place of fear? When one or the other take over, usually anger or resentment follow. This is a good time for me to do a fourth step. I've also realized that I have the right to choose how I respond and correct it. I have the right to put personal boundaries in place that serve me. I have the right to care, but not to caretake. I have the right to feel and express it. These are all the wonderful solutions that I've discovered that have been highlighted in owning up in step 4, 5, and 6. It has brought me awareness to do things differently. I'd like to end on the point of humility. Admitting my faults and making an effort to change them has brought humility, one of the greatest virtues and the root of all grace. I continue to give gratitude to this program and live a life of continuous discovery. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Thank you so much. Good job. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do believe I've got a little bit more time, so if you would like me to end with one more reading, I'm very happy to do so.
If you have more time, go for Jillian. It's up to you.
Yep. Go for it.
Okay. Courage to Change, November 28. As I worked through my fourth step, I listed my character traits as honestly and fearlessly as I could. I was struck by great irony. Many things I had once thought of as virtues, taking care of everyone around me, worrying about other people's lives, sacrificing my own happiness and prosperity, turned out to be the causes of my misery. All those traits I had also ignored. Talent, optimism, self-discipline turned out to be my truly positive qualities. It was as though, through the power of this step, I had found a way to turn my upside-down personality right side up. I still struggle to keep it all from turning over once again. But when I see myself clearly, I have a sense of wholeness and a feeling of pride and peace. I can be happy to be myself now that I know who I am. Today's reminder, my life is a constant state of change. Awareness allows me to keep pace with that change. Today, let me listen to my words and watch my actions. Only by knowing the person I am, I can create the person I want to become. quote, "Each man must look to himself to teach him the meaning of life. It is something discovered. It is something molded." By Antoine Dupuy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charissa. Gillian, back to you.
Thank you, Charissa. Step 4, thank you for your wonderful share and for the preparation in doing it. And for me, step 4, there was a real revelation between living in the black and white and finding the grey. And I often relate it to a radio, the old-fashioned radio volume that used to turn up. And I just need to adjust that round knob and see that things are not just black and white, that perhaps a character defect is indeed a character asset. If I just change the focus a little bit and change the volume knob, and perhaps my endless patience means that I'm, just need to practice a little bit of caring for myself, and not just constantly let people in front of me push in front of me and that sort of thing. So it was a wonderful lesson for me on step 4. Thanks. I'm going to introduce the next speaker. Ramanie is from Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, which is on the coast, on the east coast of Africa. It's a beautiful coastal town, and it's our capital port city. So there's a lot of shipping activity that goes in and out of the Durban harbour. And so Ramanie is going to share on step 5, and she is there. And so over to you, Ramanie. We will unmute you.
Thanks.
You're unmuted. You were.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Good
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to all the American and Scottish and European guests. Thank you, Gillian, for this opportunity to share. I'm very grateful to be a part of this Al-Anon Without Borders roundup. I grew up in a home affected by alcoholism. I went from being a 5-year-old girl who was totally in awe of my father to an angry, resentful teenager who hated my father. This kind of hatred, anger, and resentment came out of fear and emotional pain. I had to protect myself from the pain that the drinking had caused. I couldn't allow myself to continue crying myself off to sleep every night. So I became tough and hard and as cold as a brick of ice towards my family. I also began to control. I tried to control my father's drinking as well as the other members of my family. Everything had to go a certain way. Every decision that I made such that I would be in control. And as soon as I wasn't in control, I fumbled. I was an emotional wreck. I carried this baggage into my adult life, feeling always as if there was something wrong with me and that there was something missing. When I had my daughter, my soul searching really began. I desperately wanted to be a good parent, but how could I be if I was still consumed with anger and feelings of irritability? A few months before my daughter turned 2, there was quite a bit of upheaval in our own home, and this made me frustrated. One day, I hit my little girl. I was shocked and disgusted with myself. I had done to my daughter exactly what my mother did to us when we were growing up. Just the other day, and I mean as recently as Wednesday this week, I heard an Al-Anon member say the abused child had become the abuser. I identified with that. That was me. I had become the abuser. I desperately wanted to be a better person, and so I sought the help of a professional. She gave me a book to read, and it was in this book that I found out about Al-Anon. I picked up the phone and made my first meeting. I came into Al-Anon broken, on my hands and knees, desperate for help. At first, I listened and attended as many meetings as possible, and slowly but surely, I started learning about and experiencing the power of this program. That is when my life started to change. My topic for today is on step 5, but I would like to share with you a little about what steps 1 to 4 meant to me first. Please remember that whatever I share is strictly my opinion. I believe that if I am to do justice to this program, I have to be painstakingly honest. So in taking the steps, I had to practice absolute and complete honesty throughout, or else it would have been pointless. I also want to say that the Al-Anon program, together with the steps, is a lifelong journey for me. It is my belief that I will never be finished with working the steps until the day that I die. At first, I learned about powerlessness. When I came into Al-Anon, I knew that my life was unmanageable, but I didn't know about being powerless over alcohol. I was always in control and controlled everyone in my life as well as every situation. So why wouldn't I be able to control my father's drinking? This is when I had to accept my powerlessness with regards to the drinking and over other people and situations. I had to relinquish control. Personally, I believe that there will always be situations in which I might find myself powerless, and I will always have to go back to step 1 and work through it in regards to this specific situation. Step 2 and 3, I will always have in my corner, for I believe that the God of my understanding can and will give me the guidance and strength that I require daily. With regards to step 4, let me be very honest. I started this step many years ago, and the truth is, I was so scared by the questions. I was terrified to look at myself that closely. So I started my moral inventory and then stopped at a certain point. Why was that, you may ask? In retrospect, I think that it was due to fear. I was too scared to admit to myself that I was not perfect, that I was flawed. I don't think I was ready for that reality. However, the more I worked the program by attending meetings, reading the literature, sharing in group meetings, and with trusted Al-Anon members, the more comfortable I became with taking the 4th step. I was able to look at myself thoroughly and write down my exact thoughts and feelings. I must admit that I was very hard on myself and that I didn't find it easy to list my assets. Here too, a trusted member of Al-Anon has helped me. This then brings me to step 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. In How Al-Anon Works, on page 53, it reads, "The thought of admitting our darkest secrets to someone else can be frightening at first. We fear that our wrongs are worse than anyone else's, and that we would be humiliated if we ever admitted them to another human being." It goes on to read, "Not only does step 5 help us to learn that what we have done isn't so terrible or so irredeemable, but also that there are people who will love us unconditionally, even if they know the very worst about us. Most of us are astonished to discover that we are the only ones who judge ourselves and our wrongs harshly. This step can dramatically change the way we look at ourselves and others, and most of us find it well worth the effort." So after having completed this moral inventory, what did I do next? Quite honestly, I didn't really know how to approach step 5. I think that the thing that scared me the most was admitting to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. So I started working with the workbook again. That is the Path to Recovery workbook. As I began to answer the questions, I felt What I was most comfortable with was the God of my understanding. I wrote a letter to the God of my understanding entitled The Exact Nature of My Wrongs. After I finished writing this letter, I waited for a quiet time. I called out to him and I started speaking to him. I had this letter in my hand, but the words just flowed from my mind and my heart. I cried many times during this admission to the God of my understanding, and I remember pleading for help, apologizing as well. Whether this was right or wrong, I don't know. It is just the way that I did it. I pleaded for healing and guidance through whatever may come next. Once I finished with my letter and my admission, I was literally on my knees, thanking him for having brought me that far in my journey of recovery. Next, I had to admit to myself. I continued using the Paths to Recovery workbook to help me with this. I worked through the questions. Here, question 13 helped me a lot. It reads, can I concede that I am not perfect? How can I quit trying to be? This question gave me the reassurance that it was okay not to be perfect. And once I let go of that unrealistic expectation of myself, I was then able to admit to myself, without judging, just accepting and acknowledging all the things that I had done wrong. A lot of these came from my recollections of incidents from my past and my behavior during those incidents, or the things that I said to my parents, my brother, and to the other people in my life. A lot also came from my moral inventory. One such experience regards anger. Whenever I saw my dad drink, my blood boiled. I would feel rage like you wouldn't believe, because obviously I refused to feel fear or pain. One particular day, I decided that enough was enough. I had the most awful encounter with my father. No child or parent should ever have to go through that. I didn't realize my part in this event then. After all, I was perfect. I didn't drink and I didn't cause the havoc. So I had nothing to apologize for at the time. But after having started working my program and the steps, could I actually suppress this incident any longer? Could I deny my wrongdoing in that incident? Absolutely not. I had to be completely honest with the God of my understanding, myself, and another human being. I know now how wrong I was in that incident and that I would one day need to make amends. Unfortunately for me, my dad has passed away, and I will have to make my amends to him via the God of my understanding. And so I came to the final part of this step. I had to admit to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. With this, questions 8 and 22 from the Pathways to Recovery really helped as a starting point. Question 8 reads, would I be willing to group my inventory into things I could admit, things I might admit, and things I think, no way, I'll never be able to do that, and then start with the could list. Question 22 reads, can being honest and admitting a mistake have positive consequences? What are they? I picked up the phone and I communicated with a trusted member of Al-Anon. I explained what I needed to do, and so I admitted the exact nature of my wrongs to another human being. I learned a few things after this. One, that someone could actually listen without interrupting. Two, that there was such relief from this burden that I had carried with me for so many years. Three, that someone could still show me positive amongst all these wrongs. 4, that someone could still love me even after knowing the truth about me. Imagine my surprise when she went on to say, I love you. I was shocked. And 5, finally, I could really and truly be me, flaws and all. Does the journey end there? Absolutely not. I am not perfect. I have come to learn in Al-Anon that I can only do my best with this one day that I have. And if today my best was not good enough, that's okay. I can try again tomorrow. The program for me is really about progress and not perfection. Do I fall into my old ways? Do I overwhelm myself because I have unrealistic expectations? Do I get angry? Absolutely, I do. But the more I work the program, the more I am aware of when I am slipping, the more I am aware of when I can't do this on my own. Then I turn my will over to the God of my understanding again. I call a trusted member of Al-Anon and I ask for help again. I attend a meeting and listen for the guidance that comes from fellow members' experience, strength, and hope again. I keep coming back. So, admitting the exact nature of my wrongs will be something that I will do forever because I am a human being and I will make mistakes. The only thing is now I know how to admit the exact nature of my wrongs. I am on a soul-searching journey of recovery. I will use the program and all that it has to offer, the slogans, the principles of Al-Anon, the literature, the meetings, the serenity prayer, and the members to keep growing one day at a time so that my new life becomes more manageable slowly but surely. I would like to leave you with this. In How Al-Anon Works on page 43, with regards to taking the steps, it reads, taking the steps is an ongoing learning experience in which every is us in new awareness of ourselves. Even our mistakes offer great riches because they can lead to meaningful insights. In this sense, every attempt we make to follow this spiritual path, positive one, and we can't make a wrong move. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ramanie. Wonderful. It's so nice to meet you. Jillian, are you still here?
I am.
I opened up the chat. If you want to thank the speakers, raise your hand in the your blue electronic hand. If you don't know how, you can always chat me. You can chat privately or you can chat with everybody. Jillian, thank you. Good job. How did you guys put flags behind your name? How do you do that? I'm like, oh my God, I want a flag behind my name.
Quite easy. On your emojis, you just go and look on your pictures and you look for flags, and then you can put your flag behind your name. Yeah, it's great. It's really fantastic. And I'm so honored to have these speakers from across the country who just willingly stepped up to the plate.